in here. But the first thing you should do is right in front of that customer, go switch the theme and say, look, you can work with an implementation partner and make this community look exactly the way that you want it, and you still get to keep the community built. So guys, that's kind of roughly what I wanted to go through. There's a bunch of other communities in SDO. There's the consumer community, which has this theme pre-applied. There's Partner Central, which does PRM stuff, which is a bit of our bread and butter. There's a bunch of others in there too that we just ignore because they're not active and not super used. But those are the three main one, guys. And you guys know how to get hold of us and ask us questions. You know how to get your community experts involved no matter where you happen to be. It's kind of one of those big, exciting, broad areas of Salesforce that we're doing that really make things different, really complements what we're doing in sales, service, marketing, and commerce.
Joe, thank you so much. I'm not at all embarrassed to admit that I just learned a ton just watching you go through that now. So I hope everyone else on the call did as well. Zorik, are there any questions that we could address while we switch back over to me and I'll start hour 2 of the extravaganza?
A couple of questions for Joe. He did a great job, so there aren't a lot of them. Regarding the recommendations, Joe, I think I've seen this being asked in the SDO updates group. After you click on a recommendation, is there a way to reset that so you can go back to a previous recommendation in the demo?
Yeah, they're a little bit ephemeral, aren't they? So the answer is no. Once you click on a recommendation, it's gone. Because you don't want to think about it in terms of putting it in front of a customer. You wouldn't want to put the same one in there a bunch of times. So one strategy for that, guys, is to queue up the same set of recommendations 4 or 5 times if you have a longer lived org. But no, so there's no way to reset it because we want to be able to click that unique presentation, that unique impression, and that click through. It's actually a product design feature that gets in the way of actually demoing efficiently. So Micah, I actually have an item on my list to maybe go replicate the current recommendations 3 or 4 times within SDO, but I know that may create setup issues for SEs. So the answer is just recreate it, copy them, go and use the same image and put that up again and just have your own queue, or just don't click through it. Just, use that little, use the little slider menu at the bottom to go spin through them and talk about clicking through them as opposed to clicking through them through each one.
Great.
Another quick one, speaking of images, it says here that call to action icons are saved in the library of the SDO insecurely. Are you aware of that? Do you know if that's been fixed? If that's correct at all?
So, I'd have to look at the specifics and what people feel is insecure, but by design, when you're looking at that tile menu or other pieces that use images in there, there is an actual content library, and I can get into it here, where if you go to upload an image, you can either throw it in there, or you can go to the asset library or another library and grab that image. There actually is a setting to allow people to view these images, and parts of communities will be public. And that's actually intentional because we don't want to put communities behind a username and password. Now, whether there is a security implication in that is a question or not. Oftentimes that's a matter of perspective, but we do have the security teams to look at these things periodically. If there's a specific issue that we're pretty sure is a security issue, we can always escalate that through engineering. They often see me showing up at their desks over there on the engineering side. So bring that up in XDO updates or Community Cloud, and we can address that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it. This was super helpful, and hopefully everyone got as much out of it as I did. I think we're going to move on to the next hour, hour 2. Before we do, any housekeeping or any additional stuff that we need to take care of, Zark?
Any polls you want to send out?
Oh yeah, let's do a poll. We have a minute. Let's do our first poll. So we're going to make this a little bit interactive because we've been talking at you for an hour. So we're going to ask you to talk at us for a moment and give us your opinion. And momentarily,
all right, so we're going to launch our first poll, which is about reusing demo orgs. So on your screen right now, we've got a poll here with a question. Do you reuse demo orgs for multiple demos? Take just a minute and put in your answer. Give us a little bit of feedback here. All right, we're going to keep the poll open for another 30 seconds.
I'm excited to find out the answer.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to be happy or sad. I'm looking at the responses thinking, oh, God, I don't know what I want the answer to be.
All right, another 10 seconds. The poll will be open. And And we're going to go ahead and close the poll now. And Micah, here are the results.
Can everyone see them or just me?
Everyone can see them.
Oh, good. I don't want to hear me crying. Great. So often create a new demo org. That's good. I'm guilty too. I used to keep an SDO forever, and 2 or 3 years, and occasionally refresh it with new stuff. So there should be a mix of people using new ones as often as they can, and people hanging on to older ones. There is a time when they get a little too old. And it's a good time to, and there's not really a good way to upgrade them, but I will show you a tool right at the end of hour 2 that might make you very interested. So it's not perfect for moving new changes into old SDOs, but there are definitely some improvements on that front that I'll share with you. So yeah, I'm happy to see that the distribution is about what I was hoping for. So thanks everybody.
Mike, I want to know who's been using the same demo org since 2007. I think Josh Aronoff is on this call, so
yeah, I was clicking as hard as I could too. I've been using the same one as the SDO, but I don't think that counts. All right, I'm going to switch back and share my screen. Can you all see Q tools again?
We're good.
Fantastic. All right, so hour 2 of today's agenda, we're going to talk about tooling. And if you have used some of these tools, great. You can stare out the window for a little bit, but you might learn a thing or two about some old favorites, or you might just get a chance to see them used. I know people are using a variety of different tools out there. I know the demo data creator tool that was created by one of our esteemed Japanese colleagues is still in constant use. And I was hoping to at least show you some of the tools, particularly data tools, that will inspire you to move from an unsupported tool to one that is supported by QBranch. So we'll do data Canada, data Massachusetts. I don't need to read all this. We're just going to go through a bunch of tools in kind of an exciting fashion. So let me do that, and we'll switch back to my demo org. So first things first, I created an app. So I need to give you a little background on this app. While I'm giving you background, I want you to appreciate what I learned this week, which is that you can embed an animated GIF as an image for your applications. Who knew? So I have a little cat. I created a cats app because one of the things I do to rack up foundation hours is I go to a cat shelter near me and I take pictures. I take photos of the scraggly old, nearly unadoptable cats. And I try to make them look as beautiful as I can so that when they put their photos up on the website, people fall in love and come in and want to take scraggly old cats home. So that's one of the things I do. And this particular cat shelter does not use Salesforce, but if they did, they should probably have a cats app. And that cats app would give them the ability to track cats coming in and out. And they would be able to see the cat name, the color, maybe its weight, and the date that it arrived at the shelter. So that's about what we need to show. And the reason I have this stuff is because I'm going to be doing a bunch of data transformations on all this stuff. So let's do that. Let me pop back to QHome. Now, you may have noticed, and if you haven't, you will shortly, that when you log into an SDO starting now, QHome will be the default landing page. This was developed by the Q Labs team under Samir Singhvi. They have been hard at work building essentially a content management tool to make our lives a lot easier. And what this does, it's not just a straight content management tool, but there's also some Einstein recommendations. In fact, little known fact, the Q Labs team was one of the first internal customers of Einstein to make use of this technology. Just a little tidbit there that we'd like to brag about. You can also click on this and get some details just on kind of what's new, if you're interested. And then just be aware when you log in here, go through the setup steps. As an SE, you don't need to enable my domain, but AEs do. And I'll explain why that is later on, actually at the very end of today's session. But just make sure you go through all the setup steps. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Let me talk about some tooling. So the demo tools section here, for the most part, are all hosted on Heroku. And we're going to start with the data tools. And we'll start with the data cannon. So the data cannon does exactly what it sounds like it does. It creates data and it just fires it into your demo org. So the reason this exists is because in the past, if you wanted to generate data for your SDO, you would go to some external tool, maybe a Mockaroo or something, or you go to a spreadsheet and you'd make a CSV and you'd put in a bunch of stuff. You'd export it as a CSV. You'd open Workbench, or you'd open Data Loader, or you'd open the Data Import Wizard if it's more recent, and you'd import that using that. It would fail twice because you didn't have the right formatting on the dates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did is we built a tool that allows you to generate and input data directly into your demo org. Now, this little warning here is here just to remind you, if you plan on trial forcing your org later, making a copy of that org for your or other uses later, putting a large amount of data in there may be a problem because there is a limit to the size of trial force. And I'll explain why that is later. But if we're under 1 million records or so, it should be fine. Just be aware that might be an issue. I'm going to go to my cats object that we just saw, and I'm going to create a bunch of new cats. So the only required field is cat name, so I'm going to customize that data. I could put in a bunch of custom data that I decide what it is, but I'm going to put in random data. Now, random data in this case means it comes from a library. There's a library in here of a bunch of stuff that you can use, sort of pre-created lists. And I'm going to give them all my cats perfectly normal human names because we don't have a cat name list in here. So we'll go with first names, and as you can see, Boyle has not changed, but that will not affect the outcome. But we're going to add a few more things here. We need to add some more fields. So we're going to add date arrived, color, and weight to these cats as well. So now these show up. Date arrived, we'll customize the data. I can choose the start date. So we'll say the cat started arriving around the 14th, and we'll say that they stop arriving around today. That seems reasonable. So we've set that, custom data. Our color, we can set, it's a pick list. So in this case, we can set the proportion of each one of these using these little sliders. Now you may notice the save button goes away until you get exactly 100%. So it's probably easiest to do like 30, 30, if you can keep track of the math, 30, 20, 20, 10, I think it is. We'll give it 100% under pressure. 20, 10, 10, I think it is. Yeah, there we go. So that gives us a distribution of these various colors of cats, and it equals 100%. And then weight, we go in and we have to set the minimum above 0, so we'll do 1, and we'll make a maximum weight of maybe like 22 pounds. That seems like a reasonable cat size. And that's all I had to do. I just set up those things. The last two things I need to look at, number of entries. Now, for our purposes today, we're not going to put in 10,000 cats because it'll take a little while, but we'll put in 10. And if we were putting addresses on here, if this was something like a bunch of accounts or something, we could choose the locale of those addresses, but that's not relevant at the moment. So I'm going to generate that data, and you can see that it's generating our 10 cat data set. And momentarily, it's going to show us a preview of that data. You can see it right here, a couple of names that are awesome, a couple of dates, some colors, and some weights. Now, I could export that to a CSV, and I could reuse that over and over if I like that data set, or I can just insert into org. And when I insert into org, it saves me the trouble of all that import stuff I used to have to do before. And when we go over to the cats, and I go to my all cats view, we should see now that all of those cats have been imported. It's that easy. So I highly recommend that you use this tool and get to know it because it'll save you tons of time on things like custom objects or just importing a whole bunch of new contacts or something. Now, one thing I should tell you is it doesn't at this point do related objects. So you can't do a lookup to something else, but we're working on that. All right, data masseuse. Data masseuse is exactly what it sounds like as well. It allows you to massage the data that's in there. So let's go look at our cats object again. Whoops, just cat, and I'll have to find it. Here we go. So we'll go look at our cats, and what we've determined is that a weight of 1 is not a likely thing for a cat. Hopefully there aren't many cats that weigh 1 pound. So we're going to increase that. We're going to change that range. But the first thing is we don't have to change all the records. We could add a filter and say, well, I only want to change the weight of cats that are under a certain amount. So cats that are less than, let's say, 8 pounds, which feels like a good number. So any cat that's less than 8 pounds, and actually I don't know, we have a couple in here. But any cat that's less than 8 pounds, we'll do that for. And then next, we will go and change the weight of that cat by dragging it in here. We'll take the cat name out because we don't want to change it. And then next, we will choose our weight. And I mean, this isn't crazy stuff. We'll make our minimum 8, and we'll set the maximum. I did some research earlier. The heaviest cat ever recorded was 47 pounds. So we'll give them a little upgrade there. And that's it. Update all records. And this will go through and it'll update any records. Process 72 milliseconds with no failures. So we should see our 5 here at least, which was the smallest cat. When I refresh this, that was Mr. Sprinkles. We should see Mr. Sprinkles now at a more comfortable 20. So data masseuse, a really quick way, hopefully you saw, to handle that. Now data packs. If you haven't used data packs, you should. They are really helpful. Now, the thing you should know about them is that they are living on Google Drive. So we have to, I'm not on the VPN, so this may not let me log in. So I'm just going to talk about data packs for a minute. So when data packs does work, and I don't have a failure in my demo prep, the way it works is it uses a Google spreadsheet that everyone can access and everyone can update. And I highly recommend you do. So if you don't like the data pack that you're using, you can click on Authenticate and you can be on the VPN. and you can authenticate directly into the application using your Salesforce credentials. And then what you will do is go in, edit those, edit the entries there to make them better for everybody. So the only caveat I need to give you is that any changes you make to data packs, you will change for everyone. The good news is it's a Google Doc, so there's a version history. And so if you change something and you didn't mean to, or you misunderstood, or someone on your team did, you can always just roll it back to an earlier version. That is not the best data packs demo I've ever done. And the next time I do that, I promise I will log into that prior to cutting myself off the VPN. Now, the next tools I'm going to use is the Perfect Date Wizard. Now, you've probably all used the Perfect Date Wizard, and you probably think that this next section is going to be really boring in review. But I'm going to put my mouse over here on the Customize button, which I'd be willing to bet almost none of you have ever clicked, except out of just morbid curiosity. So I want to show you what you can do to customize. Customize means you can add the Perfect Date Wizard to any object. So for example, my cat's object, I want to set it so that every time I run the Perfect Date Wizard, it updates the dates that my cat's arrived. And you can see it looked at the cat's object, it figured out that there's one date field, date arrived, and now I can set that. Maybe I want to set this further back in the past from maybe the, we'll say from the 1st to the 7th. So there's just cats a couple weeks ago. February 1st to March 7th. So we'll do February 1st to the 15th. So we apply there, and we can do a couple things. We can do it random, which I'm going to do, but we could also do a custom thing. So we can draw a little line, and it'll change the distribution of those dates to whatever I want. Maybe I wanted like a little dip in the beginning or something like that to help tell my story. But in my case, I'm just going to randomize these from the 1st to the 15th, and I click Add. And then you will see down at the bottom here, Make Perfect Cats. So I will run the Perfect Date Wizard on my cats. And what we should see is that these should change. These dates will change around in a moment. Now, something I want to point out that you might also not know, or you may never have clicked here, but it's really helpful, is there's, once this is done kicking off, what we'll see is a link here called Monitor Bulk Data Load. And that's something that you should be aware of because it's really useful when the Perfect Date Wizard doesn't seem to be working the way you expect. Always click that and always check that what you just ran correctly. So I just actually, it turns out I ran all those, but you can see it ran a whole bunch of different objects, and it shows that there's one failure in cases, which is normal. But sometimes when I run this, like the tasks or events fail, you'll see like 278 failures of events. And so all you need to do is just rerun it. And normally, then when you check again, as long as it says zero records failed, then you're fine. We see that 13 cats were processed. And if we go back here and we refresh, if you look quickly, watch the dates, we will see that the dates have moved around to our new distribution. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly how the Perfect Date Wizard works, I'll explain it. The Perfect Date Wizard uses a field called DB days. Let me go into a cat and I'll show you. So it uses a field called DB days. And what you can do is you can enter a value in DB days, and most of those standard records have this. So like cases have a DB days, and opportunities have a DB days, and contracts have a DB days. And what this means is how many days from today should we move this date? So if I put a 10 in here, it means 10 days from now. If I put a -12, it means 12 days ago. And so you can go through any record and just look up DB days, or there might be a DB duration field, which will tell you how many hours it lasted for cases. But that's what the Perfect Date Wizard does to continually, so that when you log in and you click the Perfect Date Wizard, it sets the dates of every record exactly right, so the dashboards look right. So Perfect Date Wizard does not randomize them. It actually has very specific values on every record. And so you can set those values with your own DB days field. What's cool is I didn't add this DB days field to the cat record. The Perfect Date Wizard did when I customized it. So now I can go back and I can add DB days values to all these records. And then the next time I use the Perfect Date Wizard, it'll use those values to determine exactly the shape of the arrival of those cats. So an easier way to do this would be go use the data masseuse tool and maybe do a distribution of DB days values the way you like them, and then have that drive your Perfect Date Wizard. So I just wanted to show you and explain to you a little bit about what's happening under the hood with Perfect Date Wizard. If you love Perfect Date Wizard, but you just hate running it because it's a pain, you should know about Scheduler. Scheduler is one of my favorite tools, but how do you choose among your children? So Scheduler is a way to run the Perfect Date Wizard on a schedule behind the scenes. Now, the obvious use case for this is you have a demo org that you keep around, and some of you admitted to having demo orgs you've had for a while. So you might just set the perfect date wizard to make perfect. And there's two things here. Ignore the data.com reset because we need to clean that out. We don't use that anymore. But there's really only one tool that we use. It only does one thing at the moment. But this is a framework for other scheduling. And if the time comes that we need to schedule other jobs, we have a method for doing it. Schedule the days and frequency. So maybe Monday through Friday, you want to run it. And the region simply determines kind of what time of day it runs. So it runs around midnight. And I know a region versus a time zone, but if you work in APAC, then probably choose APAC because it'll run late at night when you're unlikely to be working, or EMEA for the same. And then once you're good, set the frequency. So just this week, because you've only got a demo on Thursday, or maybe just like every week, run this and set the schedule. And so now if we go look at my scheduled task, we will see that we have a weekly run of the perfect date wizard, or sorry, a daily run of the perfect date wizard every work day of the week into perpetuity. And if you're not using it, you might just want to delete that as well once you're done, because that does consume some small resources, and eventually that'll grow to consume more resources. So if you need it, leave it, and if you're done with it, or when the org is gone, it'll quietly go away as well. So I just wanted to see that. The other use case, which I think is really brilliant for this, is if you give one of your AEs a demo org, set the scheduler with a perfect date wizard, and every time they log in, the dates will be right. Because they're not going to remember to go change, go run the perfect date wizard. And sometimes maybe those tasks will fail behind the scenes. But if you run it every day, then chances are pretty good the task will get caught each time and they'll be fine. So definitely play around with that. There's not much to do. It's a pretty simple tool, but it's a very, very effective one. Let's talk about the org customizer. You all remember the org customizer? We were talking about this earlier on the call. Since this is I'd say the third iteration of the org customizer from the days of Eric Yuell, but I think he worked on that as well as the perfect date wizard. And then the org customizer beta. This is brand new, and I thought I'd show it to you. So if you're not familiar with this, which you should be, it's basically a way to quickly change some values of a couple of key accounts and so forth. And we chose kind of hard-coded some accounts and contacts, the most common ones in here, which is all well and good. But the org customizer beta takes a slightly different approach to it. What this does is allow you to change any record quickly. And instead of hard coding the results, what it does is it uses list views. So the list views that are in your org is what it's using to drive these lists. So if I just want like my key users from the users list, here's all the key users. Or if we go to accounts and opportunities, maybe I just want to see my accounts, and I just want to change my accounts quickly. And so it's got this quick spreadsheet style layout, so you can just go quickly from one to the next, and really quickly just change the names of these accounts or whatever you need to do to make them make sense in your story. Now, if you go through these, it's all the usual suspects. And when you get to products, you'll notice something funny here. The bundle builder is here instead of the old, I want to change all the product images. And it says, well, if you want to do this, go use the bundle builder. So I'm going to click on bundle builder because I would be willing to bet a lot of people have not done that as well. And it's worth looking at the bundle builder, not only because it becomes the place where you change product images, but also because it's really useful for a couple of other things. The bundle builder was built to address some issues that we were having with CPQ setup. And in particular, there's just CPQ's an acquisition product, and there were a couple of integration points that were a little funny between us and them. And we've worked out most of them, but Bundle Builder bridges the gap for the last few. So the first thing it does is just handles standalone products. So if you want to go change something, let's go to our large turbine. If you want to change this, just edit it. And you can go in and quickly change the name and the product code and the description and so forth. And if you want to upload a new file for that, I'll go to downloads and I'll grab my windmill. The other thing I learned is, and you may be able to see that doing its thing there, is you can use animated GIFs for products as well. So I'm over the moon about this. So I have my little windmill turning in there for large turbine. But that may not be a common use case, but you can see how easy it is now to update the photos for each of these products. So that's thing one. It's really easy to just update the products here. And you can add new ones as well. The second thing you should know is that here you can build bundles. And what that means is when you use CPQ, there's a complex arrangement of things. So when you put the starter kit into your product line items for CPQ, there's a bunch of dependencies. There's certain hardware you can add. There's a couple products there, and then there's some software you can add, a couple products there, and accessories and support and stuff. And arranging that using CPQ is a bit of a pain because it's like a series of related lists on records, and you kind of have to keep track of which record on which related list is related to what, and you have to set a whole bunch of parameters. So what this does is just allow you to arrange these really easily. If I want to add another product to the starter kit at the highest level, I can just add something here and it'll put it in, and I can add some parameters around it about whether it's required or a default or whether it's a component, accessory, or related product, and that changes how it relates to the other things. And it just makes it really easy to assemble a picture of these dependencies here in the bundle builder. So if you have a CPQ demo and you're kind of stymied by the complexity of those relationships, this is where you go. The other thing you should be aware of is CPQ templates do not carry over the branding from your org. So, so the Cirrus logo that sits quietly in the SDO, quietly branding everything, what was cool about it is if you changed the Cirrus logo, then kind of everything changed. If you changed it, it'd change on the standard quotes, and it would change on, I'm trying to remember all the other places. It would change up in the corner of Classic, and there were a couple of other places that you'd encounter the Cirrus logo. That it would automatically just show up because it was referencing the same resource. Well, in this case, the way that CPQ was built is referencing an ID rather than the resource itself, rather than the name of the resource. And as you may know, when you trial force an org, all the IDs change. And so we just have not, we've tried everything we could think of. We could not come up with a way around this. And so the bundle builder allows you to just very quickly brand the contracts, proposals, and quotes, the documents that are generated by CPQ with whatever you like. And if you want to put in, if you want to upload an image, or you just want to refer to an existing image that's in your org or somewhere else, you can do it very easily here. So and even if you just want to use whatever logo you've imported, if you use the logo, if you use click, boom, then just go here and click update, and this will update those documents so that they have what they need. So just go through and do 3 clicks, and then when you've done that, each of those documents should have the branding that's the same branding as the rest of your org. And then lastly, if you are adding new products, this isn't a tool so much as just a little tutorial, and this will just walk you through what you need to do to add new product images so that you have them in the right place so they show up correctly. I got to take a quick pause there. I've got a couple more tools, but I just wanted to pause and take a breath and see if there are any questions about some of those things we've covered.
Yeah, there's a lot of woohoos and yeses and excitement about these tools. I don't think people knew about them, Micah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this session is most of the interactions I've had with teams of SEs, what I'm finding is we have a lot in the SEO that they just don't know about. And it's not an SE's fault. There's a lot of demands of your time, and there's a lot of noise in the system, and you don't have time to just sit down and fiddle. But I thought it would just be good to show you what you already have and see if it can save you some time this year.
Yeah. So if we have time for a few questions, I'll fire them away as quickly as I can. Data cannon. So for the data cannon, can you inject things with lookups?
No. So I mentioned that before. Data cannon does not yet do lookups. That's on the list of things we want to do with it. And there's I'll talk a little just at the end of, actually sort of next, in one of the second half of this hour, I'll talk about a tool that might be very interesting to you for that as well.
And do you know what's the number of rows they can create? This is for somebody wanting to use it for Einstein Analytics.
Yes, so it's actually built originally. We originally called it Wave Machine because when Einstein Analytics was called Wave, one of the questions we had was, well, how do we generate a really big amount of data for it? So yeah, it's in the millions, and really the limiting factor is probably your patience. And the other limiting factor is probably the org itself and any downside you'll see to if you try to run a dashboard on 1 million records, you may have some slowdowns.
And last question, do you know if the CPQ demo team uses their own demos or are they working off of the SDO?
Both. So we will have a guest from the CPQ team later, but there is so the SDO is outfitted with what I'd call a basic CPQ demo, kind of a one scenario CPQ, beginners CPQ. And then the CPQ team has their own org that has a much more configured environment. I would love to work with that team this year to find out how to bring those closer. And I don't actually know what the delta is between them. So that's on my list of things to do sometime this year.
And one question from Zorik, an avid audience member here. Do you still need to authenticate to SDOs?
Oh, thanks for asking. So you don't. If you use QHome, QHome automatically authenticates you based on the email address of your user record. So if you, as long as your user is a Salesforce.com email address, it'll authenticate you, it whitelists you, and it saves you the trouble of having to click the little authenticate button that you had to do before. So you can just use the tools straight out of the gate from here.
Awesome. That's all for me.
Thank you. All right, well, let's go back to demo tools and we'll talk about a few more of them. I'm going to talk about Chatter Droids, and then I'm going to talk about Doppelganger, and then I'm going to talk about Platform Events Wizard. And these are, again, some of my favorite tools. So let's talk about Chatter Droids. Chatter Droids, if you haven't played with it, and this tool's been around for a while. It probably needs to be dusted off, but it still works quite well. So there are 3 Chatter Droids. There is the Assassin Droid. And the Assassin Droid, what it does is it allows you to delete chatter posts. And that may not be the fanciest thing you've ever seen, but it's really nice if you just have a demo and you've been practicing for a demo and you're like, oh yeah, I added a whole bunch of records here and I don't really want those to show up. So I'm just going to delete any chatter post that isn't helping my demo out. So you can go through, this is the whole chatter feed. You can delete the entire chatter feed. You will notice I do not put my cursor anywhere near that, but if you click on that, it will delete everything in the org. But you might want to be a little more choosy, and for example, maybe you only want to just delete all the feed track changes that are in this org from various things that have happened in the past, or created record events. But you can also delete chatter posts in the community, so that can be helpful to you as well. And you can see, as Joe mentioned before too, once in a while we have a little legacy thing hanging around here that's hard to get rid of. But you can ignore anything with an omega in front of it. That makes sure it ends up at the end of the list. But basically, you can go through and you can delete whatever you want without having to go through individually and delete posts or to log in as a particular user to delete their post, which is frustrating as well. So that's the Chatter Assassin. Pretty straightforward, but also very useful. The day before your demo. The Charade Droid. So before there was a charades, if you wanted to show a chatter conversation between 2 people, you would have to log in as one of your personas, post something to chatter, log out, log in as the other person, post something to chatter, log out, log in as the first person, blah, 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 and so forth and so on. And it was kind of a pain, and so it didn't really show chatter off to its best advantage, and it was a lot of work. So what we can do now with charades droids, we can pretend to be different people at different times. So the first thing is you can choose the object that you post on. So I'm going to post on an account. I'm going to post on Ohana Incorporated, and I'm going to post not as myself because that's easy. I'm going to post as Cindy Central. Yeah, I know we've moved back to the admin, but I miss Cindy now and then. So Cindy Central is going to post, and she's going to post to Ohana Incorporated. We can see the feed view over here to give us a little better idea. She's going to post something, and she could post it like a week ago. If your story is that like this is a conversation that happened in the past, by all means. She can't post it in the future, though, because it'll throw an error. But if you want to have it happen in the past, you can do that, or we can just have it happen right now. And she can post whatever she likes or put up a file or a link. So, hey, I just met with the CIO, and things are looking good. And when I share that, this is Cindy Central posting to the chatter feed, and you'll see this refresh over here, and she is posted to the chatter feed as Cindy Central. Now, what you're seeing here, March 18 dev only, that's my org name, so don't be alarmed by that. Yours will say something more clever like Cirrus. However, if I want to respond to Cindy Central, all I have to do is click comment, choose my user again. So I'm going to choose Elliot Executive, her boss. Same thing, I can choose the same time, whatever, or if this happened in the past, I could set that and say, great, let's meet and strategize. And comment on there. And then we have a conversation between the 2 of them. And then to show you there's nothing up my sleeve, let's go back. We'll leave my Cats app for the moment. And we will just go to sales and we'll go look at our Ohana Incorporated account. And you will see, it should come as no surprise on there, that the Ohana Incorporated account should have a chatter feed on it. And the chatter feed will have the conversation between these 2 players because we just saw it happen. And here we are. I just met with the CIO and things are looking good. And we can see, great, let's meet and strategize. And so you can build quite complex conversations if you like, just to give your chatter feed a little more color, but it saves you hours and hours of logging out and logging in. The next chatter droid I want to show you is the storyteller droid. Again, a favorite of mine. So in the past, if you wanted to show the power of chatter, you would be at your big demo and you would have another SE, or you'd have your AE on standby, so that when you posted something to Chatter, they could post something right back and answer your question, and it would look like it was a live thing happening. And we thought that was not a very fun way to do things. So instead, you can create what's called a Chatter story. So a Chatter story, the name doesn't matter, and so we'll just call this new Chatter story. It really, the name has nothing to do with this except to just keep track of them if you have a couple. The watchword is where it gets interesting. The watchword is, if anytime anyone anywhere in this org posts this word, you want a Chatter post to go back to them. So we're going to make in this case, our watchword something really unique, bananas. And the second apart from posting, so this means how many seconds after that word is seen in a Chatter post should someone respond? And the answer to that, I generally put a 1 in. It's not going to be that quick. In fact, it's sort of, I think it uses a batch processor. I can't remember exactly how it works, but it's not like real time, so it'll be a few seconds. So I usually set that pretty low. So cannot create record. So is unique. Oh, maybe I called something else this. Other Chatter story. And bananas, let's try fruits. No, I know there's one in there. We'll say cats. There we go. So I think I had one in there with another name because I did this before. So we have a new Chatter story. Now the next thing you do is, and this is a little confusing, so I think the UI could be updated, but it's easy enough. So go to feed view and read this, which says, please insert comments. So assume that this chunk here is any post with your watchword, and then you can add comments into it. So we're going to post as, we'll post as Elliot Executive again. And he could say, cats, I love cats, but you don't want the post to contain the watchword, or else you're going to end up in this infinite loop of posts and reposts and comments and comments. So hey, I really love felines too. Okay, so Elliot Executive is going to comment anytime the word cats is mentioned. Let's make sure we have that right. It's going to be the word cats. Then he's just going to chime in with some low value responses. So let's go back we'll go to our home page here, because I think that does a live Chatter feed update. You know what? I tell you what. We'll go anywhere. We'll go to our account. Okay, so on our account, we're going to just post on here. Hey, these customers, I'm going to spell it wrong, are some real smart cats. Got to spell my watchword correctly, and I'm going to share that. Now, if you're on a real-time Chatter feed that auto updates, you'll see it happen. But we'll just wait a moment or two, and then I'll refresh the screen. And what will happen is we should see that watchword will be picked up, and we should see that Elliot Executive will have responded. We'll return to Chatter. And we will now see that, not yet. We just need one more go. And if this works, that'll be great. And if it doesn't, I'll just move on. But generally speaking, it's pretty good. There we go. We have one comment. Hey, I really love felines too. So it took, I'd say, about 10 seconds on our 1 second response. So just expect it to take a few more seconds than you were imagining. But you can have very sophisticated conversations here, because you can have multiple watchwords. You can have multiple responses. You can have a whole conversation of people posting one after another. Hey, yeah, me too. Here's something I found. So you can have like a whole bunch of people chiming in about how awesome whatever your comment was. And so it's a great way to show like this idea of collaboration and all these people piling on when someone asks a question on Chatter. Any questions on Chatter droids? And then I'll show you Doppelganger.
I do have some questions. There's some requests with regards to uploading files or links in those with those droids, mainly with the Chatter Stories capability.
Yeah, so Chatter Stories you can. I'm sorry, Chatter Stories you can't. Chatter Charades you can. And this is why these things need to be dusted off, because at the time that these were originally built, I think those weren't possible. There was no API for, like the REST API didn't support files for some of these things, and I can't remember why. So yeah, it's definitely time for us to look at these and give them a once over. It's probably not the highest priority because there's some other tooling coming, and I'll tell you a little bit about what QLabs is doing over the next quarter. But eventually, I expect to see those grow up.
And one last question. And when we're looking at the Chatter Assassin, is there an easy way to filter specific feeds by object if somebody's trying to delete specific posts, specific conversations, let's say from a specific case?
Today, no, but that's a really good feature suggestion. So So as you can see here, like for feed track changes, like these could be, this is all over different objects. So you'd have to go through and filter them. What we've done is we've tried to keep the number pretty low. It's probably time for me to do a little cleanup in the SDO master, as you can see here, and just clean up the extraneous ones so that when you have chatter posts, they're pretty much all your own, except for a couple of very specific ones that have some content in them. But yeah, long answer to short question, no. But I think that would be a really good addition for the next generation of this. If any of you are interested in building Heroku apps, the QLabs team has a framework now that they can share, so you can build an app and then you can plug it into their authentication framework and make it available to the SEs. So if you're interested in that, contact @Q-Labs, and they will happily talk to you about how they've built this awesome architecture so other people can build on top of it. All right, let's switch gears and go to Doppelganger. I'm cautiously optimistic this will work because I'm not on the VPN, but I logged into it earlier. Ah, lovely. Okay, if you haven't used Doppelganger, I understand why, because it's got a funny name and it may not be obvious what it does, but I'm going to show you today, and then I want you to go play with it. So Doppelganger, which you find in Stockpile, which you find by logging into the tile on Aloha. Probably should have done it in that direction. So go to Aloha, click on Stockpile. It may not be in this position, but I click on the lot. Go to Stockpile, click on Doppelganger. If you don't see it for some reason, just contact QLabs. They'll add you to the whitelist. The way Doppelganger works, what Doppelganger does is it's designed to save you the trouble of packaging when you want to move things from one org to another. So today, or previous to Doppelganger, if you wanted to take a custom object you'd created in one org and move it over to another org, you would have to package up that custom object, make sure that there are no conflicts with anything in that other org, and then publish it as a package, wait for it to go through the publishing process, switch over to your other org, take the URL from the publishing process from the first one, put it in the URL, and go through the whole installation process of any package or any demo component. And if you've ever tried to build a package, you probably have no hair left, because packaging is just a really finicky thing. Test classes used to be required all the time and still are, but we turned some of that off in the SDO. Dependencies are annoying. If there's any conflict, if there's anything that's already in the SDO in your package, it won't install, or it'll try to rename them and it'll give you a bunch of errors. So what Doppelganger does is it allows you to say, I have something in my current org or whatever, but I'm going to use the current one, and I would like to put this in an older org. And we call them metadata bundles. So the origin org is this current one. I love that cats thing I made. I just love it, and I want to put it in all my orgs. So the March org that we're working in right now, but it could be any of them, to an old September org that I've got. And I'm going to go pick a couple of things that I made. So we'll go to the custom objects, and this will give me a list of all of the custom objects that are not in the destination org, but are in the source org. So you can hide, so we can see all of them if we want, but this gives us the option. We hide them all, except for the one we want to add in. So there's my cat custom object. But there's some other things. There was a custom tab I created for that cat thing, so I'm going to go grab the custom tab. And there's probably, it might be a custom, I think I made a cat's custom app. Don't know if it's going to show up here. No. So sometimes some of these things work and some don't. So I got those two. And if I wanted to, oh, I know, a page layout for sure. So I have page layouts for my cats. And we see our cat C layout. Okay, so I have a custom object, custom tab, page layout, and I'm done. There's a dependency engine as well. So what this will do is if you want to pick up dependencies, there aren't really a whole lot on these, but if you're picking up like classes, it'll pick up the other related classes for you, save you some trouble. So now we have this bundle. And now I can do two things with it. I can save the bundle so that I can reuse it over and over and over. So maybe I'm making it's basically like a demo component, but it's a bundle rather than the component. Or I can just migrate it directly to the destination. And that'll just take this cat's object and it'll put it in my September 2017 dev org. Now, so there are, as you can see, there are a few limitations. And as you can see here, when we're creating the metadata bundle, it doesn't move everything yet. So this is highly dependent on the capabilities of our metadata API. And so only things that can be accessed through the metadata API can be accessed for this. But as that grows, this grows, and you can see some of the new things, flows are in here, and lightning components, lightning bundles are in there. So many of the things that And lightning bundles is a great one. If you create a cool lightning component and you want to move it from org to org, you don't have to do that copy and paste nonsense anymore. So get in here and play around with it. So the cool thing here is once you set this up, and I'll save a bundle, we'll call it the cats thing. It's probably going to show up for everybody. So bundle visibility, here we go. So I can add a description, cats, of course, and I can decide whether this is just a bundle that I have visibility to, or do I want all SEs to have access to it. I'll leave it my own so you don't all see that later. But when I save this bundle, then we can access this bundle for our own orgs. And we can access it from two places. One of them is right from here under metadata bundles. And you can see there's a couple in here, including mine. And then the other, if I switch back here, and if I get this right, the Doppelganger add-on, I believe, this is live demo, so we're going to find out together. So this will show, so this is showing in my org, rather than me having to switch over to Stockpile, all the bundles that are available to me, including my own. So start to play with this. Caveat emptor, of course, be a little careful because you are changing things around. Let's move back there. You are moving things in and out of orgs. It's probably not going to break anything, but it does force things in. So if there is something that's already like if there's a Java if there's a jar file in there that has the same name as the one you're putting in, it will overwrite that. So it is definitely a demo tool and not a tool we want to use, for example, in a customer environment.
Mike, I have a lot of questions about Doppelganger. Do you mind if we stop here for a sec?
Yeah, we can stop. I can tell you right now, I'm probably not going to know the answers to those questions, but let's give it a try. We'll hear a few of them, and if I bail out, then I'll get those questions answered on Chatter for you. So
can you do older org to newer org?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It just whatever the origin org and the destination org, it's fine.
Can you in some way use somebody else's org?
That's a good one. No, you currently only have access to your own, but you can make a bundle, and then you can share that bundle to everybody, and they can get it.
Right. Oh, the bundles can be shared.
Yeah, bundles can be shared. So if we pop over back here, this is under demos tools, and if you go see Doppelganger add-on, you will see any public bundles that are currently available. So yeah, we can share it that way. But yeah, you can't play a practical joke on your pals by putting something in their org without them knowing.
Okay, I think there's lots more, but I'm going to let you proceed.
Okay, thanks. Those were easy. Thanks for softballing me on those. If you have harder questions, the Q Labs team built this, and they continue to work on it. I've got some news about this right after the last tool, and they're putting a lot into this. And let me tell you why, actually, because one of the motivators behind this tool is the IDEO team is trying to take changes from the SDO and migrate them into their IDOs. So one of the questions earlier was, does the IDEO team have like Einstein stuff in it? And the answer is yes, but it's been a manual process up till now. But we're starting to use Doppelganger to go, oh, this cool thing we just implemented in the SDO, let's put that into 10 different IDOs. So this will make that considerably easier. So that said, we're also putting a lot more investment in this, and I expect you'll see a bunch of updates to this. In fact, I know you will, because I'll mention that next. But before I mention that next, let me show you one more thing that's really cool, and that is the Platform Events Wizard. And you'll find it, if you don't find it in here as an app, which you will find in the latest SDO, you can just find it as a tab. Just put in Platform Events, and it's in some fairly recent SDOs. The Platform Events Wizard was just launched recently. There's a Platform Events Launcher that you can find as well. But either way, it does approximately the same thing. It's just the newer version is better. It is Visualforce and Apex, so it will only be in newer orgs. But here's what it is. Let me just go back to an app, which has the notification console. Okay, so if you don't know what a platform event is, it doesn't matter that much. But let me tell you a little bit. A platform event is an external event, a thing happening outside of Salesforce that gets sent into Salesforce, sort of. I'm going to butcher this, but it gets sent into Salesforce, and Salesforce can do something about it. So what that means is, if an external system, let's say an ERP system, wants to notify Salesforce that an item has shipped, the item for order whatever has shipped, it can send a platform event to Salesforce, and Salesforce can receive that platform event and will then take action on it. It can fire a trigger to go create an email notification to the customer to let them know that their thing's been shipped, or as we'll see in some of these examples, any number of other things. So, so basically, just think it's an external message that comes in, and Salesforce is able to take action on it. So when we go back to the Platform Events wizard, what this is a way to simulate anything, anywhere, sending any kind of message into Salesforce. This is another one of the amazing things out of the mind of Hanul Park. And what it does is allow you to create a page, and we added some cat facts on here. So you can create a page, and you can do whatever you want with this page, and I'll show you how to do it. But basically, any image you like, any buttons you like, and when you click on these buttons, what it will do is send a message into the org. It should momentarily, hang on, but it'll send a message in, and that message will pop up, and then Salesforce can do something about it. Let me try that again. So I'll send a cat fact. I'm going to refresh that page. This is usually pretty stable, but I was having a little trouble with it today, so let's see if it cooperates. I'll try a streaming cat fact. So what this is doing is it will send messages into Salesforce, and those messages would pop up on the top of the screen, and then they'll show up in the notification console. And refresh this just in case this is just a little tired for me using it. Oh, there we go. So ready to receive notifications, and then I will try this again. We will view this page, and it will send in a cat fact. Okay, I've broken it. So I will show you how to build one, and we'll see if that one works. So the way you build these is really actually quite cool. You create a new page. Let me just clear up a few of these so we see what we're doing. Yeah, not every demo goes according to plan, but that's okay. Okay, we're going to create a new one entirely, and we're going to create one for a solar panel. So let's go get a picture of some solar panels. We'll go to Google Images. We'll pick a really pretty one. Where's a pretty one? Let's pick a large one. So we'll choose a size large and see if there's a nice pretty one. That's pretty. Oh, that's a pretty one. Okay, so we're going to choose this one. We'll take the link, copy image address here, and we'll pop this in. We'll say solar panels, subheader doesn't matter, background image. We're going to pop that in. We're going to create the page. When we view the page, we have now created a page with solar panels on it. And now what we can do is we can have whatever we want. We'll do a dark theme on there, and we'll add a button. The button label would be solar panel, and the action type is going to be a send. And so we add that. And then we'll have some sort of endpoint, which is that notification console. And this is all, I think this is all documented somewhere. And then the tricky part is the platform data. And this is the part where I need help. So I'm going to just quickly, I'm going to just update the page quickly. And then I'm going to go back and look at the other one and make sure, see how that's configured. My apologies for not being smarter. Here we go. So this is what the message that should have sent. So we're gonna go back and copy this into ours and then change it. So we're gonna edit, and we'll go change our message to, instead of a cat fact, we'll change it to something like solar panel something something. It has low power. Now you're going to see a little more of this later, I think, when we talk about IoT. So I'm going to update the page with that. I think we've got everything good, and now I can view this page. And now I have a solar panel button, and when I click that button, if I return to the notification console, in theory, this would pop up. In practice, for whatever reason, it is not cooperating with me at the moment. So I'll do one more refresh of this, and we'll see what's going on. But if this was a real demo, that would pop up, and we would see I keep being surprised by the ready to receive. But what we would see is a message coming through from our solar panel. Ah, there we are. Solar panel has low power, and it pops up here in the notification console. So let me explain what you just saw again, just to make it clear. So the notification console is a custom component that you can snap into the utility bar of any Lightning app, and it's already in the SDO. So you just need to add it. But what it does is it sits there and listens for these platform events. And as we send these platform events, you'll see that turn red, and you'll see the message should pop up over here, and it will be listed there. Now that's not that exciting, but what happens is anything that shows up here can trigger something happening in Salesforce. I believe a flow, like a process, can accept this. I know a trigger can. So for example, this solar panel could kick off a new case that says the solar panels are having low power. Let's send out someone for field service. This could be a shipping notification, like I mentioned. This could be IoT. And the work that Hanul's done, I have not done this justice, but you can build really, really interesting things that do all sorts of stuff. And we'll see a little bit more of this later if we have a chance with the IoT demonstration. where you'll be able to see you can send a stream of messages going in and hit the orchestrator with these, or stream of random messages going in, so you can see the orchestrator bounce around. So there's a bunch of choices, and it just takes a little bit of a little more brains than I have to make it work right off. But you saw how easy that was to build that page, and you can put any picture you like on this page and call it anything you like, and then you can pop open your phone and you can access it from there, and you can show the same thing. So Platform Events Wizard is super cool and super useful. So go play with that. I have 3 more minutes in this hour, and I have 4 more things I want to tell you, but they're not tools, so nobody panic. And then we'll take a few questions, and we'll move on to our guest speakers. What's coming from Q Labs, the team that brought you nearly all of this? And by the way, Hanul works closely with Q Labs as well to coordinate on various technical challenges that we have in some of these tools. But what's coming from Q Labs, they've asked me to share with you a Q dashboard, which will be an org-independent demo tool which replaces Stockpile and gives you access to all the tools that are org-independent, so you can do changes across those orgs and have better management of your orgs and such. So Q dashboard. They're creating a Gmail accounts generator so that you can set up inbox demos much more quickly. You could set up Office 365 and there'd be sort of pre-populated emails in there, but there wasn't a great one for Gmail. It's on a deprecated product, and so they've taken a new crack at that and should be coming out in Q1. They are building into Q support. If you've seen Q support in Q Home, we'll go to Q branch. Q support is the tab that allows you to get some support, but this is kind of a basic thing right now. It just sends you to a couple of different resources, but in the near future, it will allow you to log assists for demo engineers directly from your SDO. So you won't have to go into org62 and find the opportunity and then go set things up over there and tell them which org it's in. They'll know which org it's in because you'll be in the org when you log the assist. And then the most exciting news, I think, is they will be upgrading Doppelganger not only to move metadata, but also to move data. So we'll be able to take my table of cats and not just move the object in, but bundle the data as well. And so now we suddenly go from, well, that's cool, but now I have to go populate it, to here's an entire turnkey demo. Here's a bundle, click this button, it'll put it in your org, and off you go. So this is really, really exciting stuff. If you would like to be an early adopter or a beta tester for that, go to the Q-Labs chatter group and go tell them that, because they would be happy to have you help. It is 7:59 my time. We have 1 more hour to go. We have a number of guest speakers lined up for you. I just want to check and see if Gregory Johnson is ready to go to talk about Field Service Lightning for the first slot, and I'll answer any questions in the meantime.
Greg's here and ready, and I have Shipple with me as well.
Excellent. One quick thing: are there any quick questions before we go from Zurich, and then we'll turn it over to you guys to talk about field service.
Micah, should we send out a quick poll at this moment just to wake people up? Not that they've fallen asleep, of course.
Yep, let's do a real quick poll. We got 5 guest speakers and 50 minutes to do them in, but let's do a quick poll and get people involved. I've built a little bit of wiggle room at the end, but yeah, let's do that. Send something out, get some answers, and then we'll put you guys on the spot.
All right, so let's see. Let's ask this question. So we're going to launch a poll here. Just a quick question for you to answer. Make sure everybody's still with us. The question is, what do you do first when you need to troubleshoot an issue with your demo build? Go ahead and put some answers in there. And oh, darn it, we forgot to put Micah's home number on the screen there for everybody to have it.
Disappointment. Sad. Well, I already know the answer because my phone's ringing off the
hook. Right. We need one of those phones that the commissioner had to Batman, Micah. That's what we really need.
I need to put a glass of water at night.
Right. We're going to go ahead and close this poll and share the results. So it looks like we're doing a lot of posting to Chatter.
Good. So the one thing I would beg is search first. Often I'm answering. Well, first of all, you should know that I am on SDO updates. I look at every post that goes to SDO updates, for better or for worse. And so what I'm looking for is this something that's affecting everybody? And I can't always tell when people post there first. So search first, and if you can't find the answer, then post. And that's a big help for me and the rest of the team that's monitoring that. Well, thank you. I want to introduce Greg Johnson and Shilpa Ramaswamy, who have both been working tirelessly on Field Service Lightning. Their work and their work alone have put it in the SDO master and made it available to all of you. And I want to give them their full 10 minutes to tell you what you can do with it. So take it away.
Thank you. All right, Greg, the moment you start projecting. So thank you very much, Micah. Like Micah said, we've been working with Micah since February of last year to get FSL in the SDO, and we are super excited to show you a demo of what that looks like today. So Greg, do you have
Shilpa,
presenter rights yet?
Yeah, Greg, are you going to be the presenter?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go.